grace of God bless man and every woman in this land. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Whatever comes to meet us, know the darkness won't defeat us. Stay strong and keep your faith alive. Some say the end is coming, to set our souls running, but I say, stay strong and keep your faith alive. Let's all come together, take care of each other. Stay strong and keep your faith alive. Raise your hands in the air. Stay strong and keep your faith alive. Take a stand, say a prayer. Stay strong and keep your faith alive.
As I mentioned yesterday, we live in a Tuneaverse, that we live in a fabric of vibration, and this vibration is essentially sound vibration and ultrasound vibration. And indeed, the point that I stressed yesterday was the reality of the body as a musical instrument that is played by the life breath. That, again, you want to understand that from the embryo on to this form, it's all vibration. And that this embryo was conceived in this vibrational field. And this embryo grew by, it's called nomic expansion, that it created a little field, and that little field had an ultrasonic aura around it, which interacted with the earth and the moon and gathered the forces of the next level of expansion, which again played with the cycles of the moon and expanded an aura which took on form, that it was all sonic and a dance between the ultrasonic forces around us and the sonic field. And I stress the reality of this in that the body is a musical instrument that is played by the breath. That as we breathe, the body as a microcosm and right down to the macrocosm of the molecular level is taken through a process of natural and cosmic attunement. That any musical instrument, as you stretch the string, it changes its keynote, it changes its attunement. And for the body, which again is made of guts and hide, as we breathe, first there's a lengthening of the tissue on a molecular level. And this lengthening creates a field which we call sattva guna. Again, guna means vortex, that there's this molecular shift into a still point of entrainment with this all-pervasive life field. So we're surrounded by life without. When we breathe in this life force, there's this a still point. And then as we expand, there's inspiration, spiritus, these spiraling fields come into entrainment with the solar force, which we call rajas guna, the fire of creation. And then as we exhale, the field drops and contracts into entrainment with the lunar force. Because the earth is very dense, the water element is run by the moon. And actually the earth element is energized by Jupiter, because the earth is so dense. And this is why the first three chakras, why is this first chakra a deep red, actually a lava color? It's because the core of the earth is entrained with Jupiter. And Jupiter rules the energy radiating up from the earth, the return current. The energy is always moving in a cycle, moving from the source down in the manifestation here on the earth, and then in its cycle rising up from the earth. Shiva, the Shiva lingam, is a symbol of this energy rising up from the earth. And there's tremendous Shakti. Traditionally, the Oriental martial arts learn how to cultivate this earth energy and become a part of this field, and to move and focus that earth energy for tremendous power. Okay. So we're saying that there are three fundamental forces: sattva, being; rajas, creativity; and tamas, the crystallization of consciousness into form. This polarity underlies manifestation. Alan Watts called rajas and tamas the two hands of God, that every dimension vibrates through this polarity. Every field of creation is moving through this polarity of neutral, positive, and negative. And so, for instance, in Taoism, the Tao would be neutral, Yang is fire, rajas, and Yin is water, tamas, what we would call, and the five elements play also within this, whether we're working with traditional Chinese medicine and the five elements, ether, air, fire, water, earth, or we're working with yin and yang, two elements. The Tao is considered the relationship between yin and yang, that you only have to play with yin or yang, that the balance will always be kept. Let's understand for a moment the five elements. So what we're talking about is oneness. And at the square of the distance from the source, the energy drops in vibration into these different keynotes, these different harmonies, so that the source is unobstructed motion, ether. And then the next harmonic is air, which is the fact that all movement in creation is deeply lawful. I can predict an eclipse 5,000 years away to the second, that nature is so profoundly lawful that it takes just to break into the atomic field, it creates a nuclear reaction, and it takes tremendous amounts of effort to attempt to break the incredible lawfulness of nature. You hear what I'm saying? This lawfulness is the air element, this profound harmony and the profound organization of energy, that everything is what it is because of its atomic structure. And this atomic structure is, Vajra is like a diamond, is like a diamond. You hear what I'm trying to say? I don't really have the vocabulary. That nature is incredibly lawful, incredibly harmonious. So air is this all-pervasiveness of universal law. And then fire is the next step down into manifestation, and this is the working, the creative energy. Water is the medium for life, this incredibly pure medium for life, and then earth is the boundaries. So what we're talking about is energy as a field. We're talking about earth in training with that boundary, and everything that is solid resonates with earth. Sometimes you'll, how about an earthquake and the way it shakes your bones? It really disturbs that earth element. Or sometimes a truck will go by that is of the keynote that will, shake that earth level again. And water is this incredibly pure medium for life. Think about how our bodies are 70% water, almost 80%. And you go into the shower in the morning feeling like roadkill, and you get under this flowing water, and you feel almost human when you come out. Because this water is grounding your energy. Now, the thing to remember about water is in nature, water is always flowing. In India, it's taboo to put a cup to your lips. You always take that ladle of that cup and you pour it, so that the water is re-inspired, respirated. Most of us in the West are drinking dead water because everywhere in nature water is flowing, and that process respires it. So here we're in this ultrasonic life field, and as soon as we pour the water, it becomes alivened again because of its inherent resonance. So that was living water, just by simply pouring it. So we're talking about the purity of water. We're talking about the 5 elements. We're talking about the purity of water as a medium for life. Okay. So in
the lines, Bruce, of the water.
Yes.
It says water principle below that. I can't. Long line.
Long line currents. Yes.
You spoke about that yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in polarity therapy, we're working with sattva, rajas, and tamas guna, which support these 3 fundamental energy fields. So rajas supports the fire in the body, the radiance in the body, which defines personal power, defines our space from within to without, and is the transformational, the vital. Okay.
Yeah.
Air, again, supports which are the so the fire principle radiates from hara, radiates from the navel, radiates from deep in the belly, and again, in every cell, radiates from that same root of entrainment with the fire of the earth. The water principle crystallizes into the long line currents. And the long line currents emanate from the chakras. So each of the fingers and toes is a current from the Earth Chakra, the Water Chakra, the Fire Chakra, the air, and the ether, okay? So for instance, in our cultures, the Water Chakra, which rules love and rules reproduction, rules form, the mother, we put a gold ring on a receptive hand on the reflexes to the pelvis, here on the Water Chakra finger. And then gold is about grounding the transcendental quality of essence.
Are those positive and negative on both hands the same? Positive, negative, positive?
No, the left hand of the left side of the body and the left hand predominate in receptivity, but things are always oscillating in polarity, maintaining the balance of the Tao.
Yeah, the fingers I was moving.
Mm-hmm. So this is essentially neutral in polarity. It parallels the spine and the core, and then the air fingers are receptive, actually. Fire fingers are positive, water fingers are receptive, earth fingers are positive.
Perfect, that's what it is.
Great.
Right.
Now, yes?
All these elements have the same quality for connection with ether, or maybe water have more directly connecting with ether?
It's really important to understand just how pure the elements are. For instance, when I had this experience with fire, okay? And so fire purifies the atmosphere around it, because when you light a fire, even a candle, it creates an ultrasonic field around it. So one Sunday morning, I'd scheduled a client for Sunday morning, forgetting that I was going to sit up all night in the Native American church and enjoy a little peyote and a night of prayer. So in the morning, I went to work on my client. I was in an altered state of consciousness because of the night in the teepee around the fire, eating the sacrament. And so I began the session with some sacred evergreen, with some cedar. And I was ceding off the client, and as I burnt the cedar, I could hear it singing an ultrasonic song. So you want to understand that fire is very pure, that any place you have fire, which people do traditionally to hold the space sacred, wherever you have fire, it's purifying the atmosphere because it's singing this ultrasonic song. And fire is an interdimensional portal. And it's the same thing with water. Water is so pure So traditionally, some body workers will have a glass of water there with the intention that it absorbed the impurity, or water with salt in it. So you want to understand just, the fact that you feel the way you do after your shower has to do with the incredible purity of grandmother water. These are our roots. We are made of these elemental intelligences. And we can cultivate conscious and nourishing relationships with them. But it's not just water which is so pure. Okay. Now, one of the things I mentioned yesterday was after the body work session, it's imperative to wash your forearms and wrists in cold water. Cold water is contracting and is magnetic and attracts psychic garbage. And water flowing in a sink is a grounding sink. It's an energy sink that attracts impurities and carries it into the ground. In a traditional household, you wash your hands or even your feet when you come home from the marketplace, because this water in this family's well is so pure, and the space in the home is so pure. You have a fire there in your home that the mother, the grandmother cares for. So there's an energy there which is very sacred. So you have someone wash their hands, or traditionally you offer them water from your well, from the family's water, because the water is such a medium for the energy of the environment. So you can just speak to water and it becomes sacred through your prayer and through your intention. It's such a profound medium for consciousness. It is so inherently pure.
And the prana? The air?
And of course the air is incredibly pure too. Think of what this life is right here, and how profoundly it just gives life to every atom of our body. The spiritus, the Latin word, for the breath. Or the Greek word is atmosphere. We live in the spheres of atmos, breath, the life breath of a living earth. This body is created within the rhythms, the proportional harmonics. So the etheric body of the way that you see energy is to see its crystallization in form. So if you look at this body, you see that this body was created in the rhythms of the proportional harmonics of the life breath of the etheric body of the earth. So the fact that this is golden ratio, golden ratio, golden ratio, golden ratio, golden ratio has to do with the fact that the rhythms of the harmony of the earth are golden ratio rhythms. So everything that lives and breathes on the earth has been created in this etheric body and the proportional harmonics of the etheric body of the earth. It's really well illustrated in a book by Doxy, a Danish architect, called The Power of Limits. This beautiful, it's published by Shambhala, which shows the proportional harmonics in bugs and flowers and plants, and of course the same golden ratio spiral in music. And yeah.
How do you spell his name?
Maybe it's called The Power of Limits. Thank you. And it's published by Shambhala, and it's Doxy. I'm not a great speller, right? I am so deeply moved honoring the mother and talking about the mother and her purity and her gifts and her generosity, and talking about these ancestors, these elemental beings. It's just such a privilege to remember them. Just such a privilege to remember them. Thank you. Thoughts or questions? So these are, I'm just ringing a bell and reminding you and inviting you to cultivate these relationships with our elders, with our roots, that they're totally available to us in terms of where we want to put our attention. So we're saying the water principle, there are these long currents which we were balancing with our 10 fingers on the 10 toes, and we were doing chakra balancing with that, and which we were balancing when we made the contact on the crown chakra, and we splayed our fingers across the forehead. We were working to balance these long currents. Now, it's important to understand that pain is carried on these long currents. pain is carried on these long currents. So anytime someone is in pain, you can hold these sattvic contacts, and they will mitigate the pain. You can hold these contacts. And the worse shape someone is in, the more they're going to feel the impact of this energy balancing. So realize that you may think, what can I offer? I only took this a few hours course where I learned a few contacts. It isn't you that's doing it. It's sattva guna is the doer. Okay? The presence of the soul force is the doer, is the one that is doing it. You are just a channel through your compassionate intention and through your kindness and presence. And the air principle rules the transverse currents in the body. And the transverse currents are embodied in the parasympathetic nervous system. Think of what the nervous system does. It's always connecting the periphery of the field with the core. Now, and that happens in macrocosm and microcosm. Now, one of the things I want to talk about human touch and the profundity of human touch. Okay, so we're saying that the air principle, which rules touch, connects the periphery with the core, and there's always a balance of yang and yin. A soft peach has a really concentrated core. Okay, a hard coconut sustains milk inside. So these sensory currents that go out into the world that take us to deliver this delicious experience of life that we're able to touch the world with are held in place because they touch the deepest, deepest core. So these sensory currents that are so delicious, so amazing, touching, return to the deepest core. So what I want to say is that when you touch somebody in a safe way, it touches the heart of their being. We've all experienced how profound human touch is. Many of us will sell our souls for loving touch, and we do. Because, on some levels, it's one of the most precious things in life, and one of the great gifts of this gift of life is that journey. So I just want to make you conscious of just how profound human touch is, how it touches the heart of our being because of these energy dynamics. And we all experience this. I'm just bringing it into consciousness. And what a privilege it is to do this work and to have people give you permission to touch them and to cradle them in sacred space and to invite them to be vulnerable. Some thoughts or questions as we talk about these three principles of neutral, positive, and negative, the way they're embodied in the energy field. So we have a Rajasic energy balancing session in my book, and chakra balancing in the book. Now, one of the things that I introduced in the session yesterday, question, Joy?
Sure. Do these correspond to the Sattva, Rajas, Tamas?
Yes, exactly.
In that order?
Yeah. So air is Sattva Guna.
Oh, air is Sattva.
Yeah. The neutral, the connection with source. Fire is Rajas, fire, personal power, radiance, vitality.
Which one's Rajas?
Rajas is fire,
Fire.
expansive, transformational, vital, powerful. Solar, the fire element. Fire is creativity, personal power, vitality, yang. Okay? And then tamas is the crystallization of consciousness into form. And so the place where you see this spectrum of consciousness most clearly is in the zodiac and in the 12 months of the year. They embody the same cycle in the most conscious way. And the place where you study this is through astrology.
So is Tamas the air principle?
Tamas is the water principle, the crystallization of
That's where
consciousness.
I'm getting them mixed up.
Uh-huh.
And so which one is sattva?
Sattva is air, tamas is water, rajas is fire. Sattva is neutral, the source, air. The fact that all air, the quality of air is movement as an expression of the universal law. And air is maintaining the feedback that maintains the harmony. And then fire is radiance, the inspiration, and water is tamas. Now, it's important to understand tamas is usually, it means inertia, resistance, the crystallization of consciousness into form. But tamas is also the experience and intelligence that underlies that. So if we look at the second half, so the first half of the year embodies the masculine principle, a blind desire to create. And the second half of the year embodies the feminine principle, which is discriminating wisdom. So you have Libra, the compulsion to love and create beauty. You have Sagittarius, integrity. You have Virgo, science and service. You know, the feminine signs are much more evolved than the masculine signs. This is why I trust feminine judgment and people with more femininity more than I do the masculine, is a blind desire for power and creation and to witness the manifestation, while the feminine is informed by the last 6 signs of the zodiac and discriminating wisdom. So the more, and I'm not saying, so many men are very feminine and have these qualities, and some women are very masculine. You think of Margaret Thatcher, you know. So it's not necessarily gender identified. But tamas guna is generally given a bad rap because the feminine is about discriminating wisdom, about beauty and science and love and all these qualities of the fall time of the year. It's just such an amazing and beautiful and nourishing and harvest time of the year in every way. I hope I'm making some sense here. Now I wanted to, so I'm just introducing these things. It's really up to you to contemplate them. I'm just giving you a vocabulary for going into the ancient wisdom. This is an alphabet for going into the ancient wisdom. I'm just taking these concepts and saying, look, they're very real, and helping you understand the reality of the elements and the powers of these elements, because these traditions have been so damaged by the church and by imperialism that it's very, very hard to get at these teachings. We struggle to find our authenticity with these teachings. So I hope that by giving you this alphabet gives you a tool to appreciate and go deeper into the reality of these elements and the power of these elements, because all of the traditional cultures are working with these 4 directions or 8 directions, are these same 4 elements in the same constellation of vibration. Yin and yang are talking about the breath of life, yang and yin. Everything that is alive is breathing through yang and yin. There's nothing mystical about the Tao. Once you understand it, all they're talking about are the 64 harmonics of the breath of life and the dynamics of these 4 elements in their 3 polarities, giving us the 12 months of the year. And of course, in astrology, they get into very sophisticated harmonics and the way that they interact to create our destinies. So part of what we were doing yesterday was working with the bija mantras. You understand what a seed is and the potential that's in the seed. This tiny bit of semen and ovum can create this incredible journey called the body. So these are seed mantras, bija mantras. And again, mantra means a mental instrument. So these are the bijas for these particular dimensions of consciousness. And the bijas are interdimensional portals to earth, to fire, to water, to air, to ether. So as we work with each of these toes, we will be chanting the appropriate bija. And again, we're using one of the gift of the holy word, the gift of the voice, that our voice not merely expresses our intention, but it interacts with the pranamaya kosha, the sheath, the field of life force. It interacts with the manamaya kosha, the sheath of mind, the dimension of mind within the energy field. And of course, it interacts with the vijnanamaya kosha, the sheet of pure consciousness, so that your voice is interacting with all these dimensions of the body. So when you have your hands on the physical body and you're using toning in some way, so we tone the bija mantras typically, and so we focus it. So the root chakra, the tip of the tailbone, is an antenna to the core of the earth and that Jupiterian vibration, which so that our evolution on earth, the return current of this life field, is actually ruled by Jupiter. The great grandfather Brihaspati is the father of this wisdom, and he rules our evolution and the power of the Shakti. And the Shakti, the feminine aspect of Brihaspati, his consort, his power in the feminine, is called Swaha. So when we chant Swaha, we're calling out to the goddess of fire. You want to understand that even fire has its polarity. At home we cook with blue fire. Or outside we often cook with orange fire. And then in a sacred way, we have a violet flame. The particular woods give off violet flame for a transcendental fire. And in India, the cedar in India, the deodar cedar, has an emerald flame, which blew my mind when I first saw it. So you understand that even in fire, there's this spectrum of consciousness and polarity that we're working with here. Okay, so we're talking about the chakras. So we're talking about the root chakra. We're talking about the way the Earth Chakra at the tailbone is an antenna that helps us to receive the powers and the forces and the radiance of our Mother Earth. That our strength is her radiance. And everybody talks about gravity. But the quality of the mother, and you see it in a child that's born on this earth, is levity, the opposite of gravity. New life is filled with levity and is so uplifting. In Bali, which is an ancient Hindu culture, you can't put a child on the ground for 6 or 8 months. It's too sacred to let it touch the earth. It's held every moment, and it's such a blessing to be in the presence. Think about after a child is born, the incredible auric field of that space. Traditionally, you roasted the mother for a month to try to hold on to that field. And you kept her in this very secluded, sequestered space to try to hold on to that portal of the birth and the incredible space of having that heavenly space of the newborn. Everyone familiar with what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about the earth and some aspects of experiencing her qualities. So the bija mantra for communing with our beloved Mother Earth and this molten core is Lam. And so we focus on the root chakra and go, Om, making it really vibrational. And then we focus on this antenna here at the coccyx has picked up the seed, and then the sacrum, our word sacred comes from sacrum, or same root, and the sacrum is a sacred chalice for this life force, and expands into the sacrum, and it radiates ultrasonically up into the solar plexus, where it communes with the solar force. So the color for the sacrum are these flames that are dancing on this lava. So the color of the sacrum is not orange like most books say, but is flame, okay? The root is not red, but is lava, okay? Vermilion. And then the solar plexus, the color is not yellow, it's luster, the color of life, the color around new babies, this auric field of health and vitality. And then energy is the product of ultimate intelligence. And every field, on every dimension, as yang and yin, as positive and negative, cross over and touch each other in every atom and molecule and cell, and every cycle of the breath, and every cycle of the seasons, there's a still point of sattva guna. And that still point is here at the emerald of our heart chakra. And one of the reasons why we come home so profoundly when we go into nature, why it's so powerfully stilling and healing and brings us into our natural state of serenity, is because at the heart of our energy is this profound serenity. And I don't understand why we live in houses, because we lose so much in living in these cement houses. It's such, just for many of us, the high point of our day is walking our dog. When you go out in Mother Nature and you walk and you breathe and you ground and you're just in her body without anything coming between you. So that's so powerful for us because we're part of this nature, and our fundamental quality of our heart is the same coherence, the same serenity. So at the heart chakra, we tune into a higher octave, and we sing to the emerald earth. We sing to the green goddess. We sing to our own highest essence as a part of nature with the tone yang. Throat chakra, the quality is freedom, unobstructed motion. It's our natural state. We have as much space in our nature as the sky itself. So we picture a sky color, and we celebrate the gift of freedom with the tone hum. At the third eye, the color is amethyst, and the tone is Kasham, is the Bija mantra, given to us by these sages who had micro-clairvoyant powers and could see these dimensions, and were given these teachings from a higher dimension. And the third eye, I can't do it right now. And then at the crown chakra, we're lucky to chant the mystical syllable Om. Om is the sound of the prana, the life force. The reverberation of Om is called the pranav. And pranav means to reverberate. And the pranav is the mystical syllable Om, that all space is oming, and that when we Om, we come into communion with the sound of the ultrasonic sound of the life force of the prana. Pra means to go forth, and na means to breath. Prana is the breath of the universe, the positive, the yang, the outgoing breath of life, of a living universe, that all space is filled with this prana.
What color would that be? Do you think is?
Oh, wow. Third eye is amethyst, and then the crown is diamond white light.
Okay.
Is beyond the color spectrum, or the full color spectrum of the light.
Could you once more repeat the words or the
The
sound?
Bija mantras, yeah. And we're going up the musical scale as best we can. Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Ham, Sham, Om. Most of you are probably better at this than I am. There's also another form of toning, And everyone do this with me, because you'll just feel its power in your energy, okay? We call this coloratura toning. Let's see if I can do it. Let's see how high we can go and do this together. You need to go one higher if you can. Now feel your field. Can you feel how much more coherent your field is just from this one simple practice? Everyone feel their crown chakra open and dancing? Thank you for your focus and attention. So I'm going to do a quick demonstration of the session again. I'll be doing just very quickly, just so you can see the movement. And then we will be doing, I think there's 11. Yeah. And then we'll be giving and receiving the energy balancing session. Yes, Margie?
So for people with baritone voices who can't make those high sounds, either as a healer or the healee, is it best just do it in low?
Yeah, just use what you have and trust your intention and trust the harmonics and overtones.
Okay.
Also, what we found, the tone ah is the yang sound of the heart, and it entrains with the nervous system. So anytime, if you can't remember any of this, just with your hands there in contact and your intention with a healing intention, just tone with the tone ah. So we use ah an awful lot. We go, oh. And then I just invite you to trust your intuition. There's some healers who develop these whole systems using different tones. If you meet resistance, this guy goes, you know, and just if you're called to channel a different tone, or sometimes I'll sing or do mantra, just trust your intuition, trust the intelligence that's moving you. Okay. Thank you, good question. Great. More thoughts or questions? I've covered a little bit of material here.
Let the grace of God bless man and every woman in this land. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Whatever comes to meet us, know the darkness won't defeat us. Stay strong and keep your faith alive. Some say the end is coming, to set our souls running, but I say, stay strong and keep your faith alive. Let's all come together, take care of each other. Stay strong and keep your faith alive. Raise your hands in the air. Stay strong and keep your faith alive. Take a stand. Say a prayer. Stay strong